They have Jason Peters in today for a physical, Derek.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I'm not surprised. Jason Peters is 40 years old, man.
Yeah, and look, we know what it looked like at the end here. The last couple of years, he was cooked, and he's gone on to. I was at Chicago last year.
He was in Chicago, yeah.
This speaks volumes to how desperate they are with this offensive line. All right, so NFC East, Derek. Let's start. We'll get to the Eagles last because we always do Eagles, but the Cowboys are in an interesting place. They're, Mike McCarthy's, whether he admits it or not, whether Jerry admits it or not, there's heat being felt there from Sean Payton. They're just
absolutely
okay. So you start there, then you move on to an offense that lost Amari Cooper, Leo Collins, Tyrod Smith. Like they've lost some good players, and I'm blanking on the receiver who's not going to be back for the very start of the season.
Michael Gallup.
Gallup's not going to be ready for the start of the season. So they've lost some firepower, man, for sure. On the defensive side, they lost Randy Gregory. Now, the plus side of this is Micah Parsons in his second year is probably going to be that much better, and they still have some talented players on that side of the ball.
Yep.
And Jerry's not getting any younger, so the patience is going to be real thin. What's your sense of the Cowboys here as we go into this year?
I think they take a slide. They won 12 games last year.
Yep.
I still think they're right around 9 or 10 wins. I don't know if that's going to be good enough for them to win the division, but when you go into a season, there's no Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup is going to miss at least the first games. Now they do have a young receiver who's got a lot of promise in Noah Brown.
Yes.
But you got to see him do it. We don't know to what degree Dak will rely on him. The offensive line is in flux. I mean, they still have, Tyler Biadasz at center. Connor McGovern is at the left guard.
Yep.
Zach Martin's at the right guard. So from center to guard on both sides, they're pretty stable. But you're getting a first-round draft pick up to speed to protect your blind side in Tyler Smith. In a right tackle, Terrence Steele, we don't know what he is or is not. And they don't have the depth like they used to have along the offensive line. Zeke is going to find some difficult lanes to run through. He's not going to see those gaping holes like he was running through before, I don't think. Although Dak came out and said yesterday that they're ready to go because they want to prove a lot of people wrong about them falling off the cliff. So, we'll see. But you're right. Jerry Jones is not a patient man. He's over 80 years old, and he has said this year that he knows he doesn't have a lot of time. And, they're tired of all the mockery that they haven't hoisted that trophy since 1995. Mm-hmm. America's team image has been tarnished significantly since then. I expect Dallas to be a competitive team. And then when you look at their schedule, my goodness, coming out of the gate, they start out with Tampa Bay and then Cincinnati. Those are two huge. Now, the good thing for them is they have both of those games at home. The bad thing is they have to play Tampa Bay and Cincinnati.
Right.
Those two games are huge tone setters for this team. They get the Giants the week after. Then they have Washington, Rams, Philadelphia. This team can start out 1-5, or they can surprise you, be 3-2, 4-1. You don't know.
Yeah, very much so. I agree with you.
But based on what we've talked about, the abundance of talent they've lost, getting a rookie up to speed, giving them a crash course to now be your starting left tackle. Overall, I see Dallas taking a step back this year.
Yeah, I do too. Not step back 6 wins, but a step back certainly, right. Maybe two less
from
wins.
12 wins, right?
12 to 10, 12 to 9,
yep.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yep.
They have Jason Peters in today for a physical, Derek.
Yep. Oh yeah. I'm not surprised. Jason Peters is 40 years old, man.
Yeah, and look, we know what it looked like at the end here. The last couple of years, he was cooked, and he's gone on to. I was at Chicago last year.
He was in Chicago, yeah.
This speaks volumes to how desperate they are with this offensive line. It really does.
Well, when you also consider the abundance of linemen that were cut by other teams around the league, I'm a little surprised they decided to go the route of Jason, especially with his history of the last several years being he may start a season for you, but it's not likely he's going to finish the season for you,
or
now,
a game.
Or a game for that matter. Now he is as wily as they come in terms of knowing all the little tricks. If they could get him to play 75% of what Jason Peters was, that's a huge comfort zone for Dallas.
That is.
Getting him to stay on the field and getting him to play at least 75% of his effectiveness, that's a huge win for Dallas. And then you have to look at that team a little bit differently. But being 40 years old now, and playing a position where you're in contact every play, unlike the quarterback, that's why Tom Brady at 45 is still playing. Tom Brady's not taking the headshots that a Jason Peters is going to be taking. Every snap off that snap, you're headbutting with a guy across the line of scrimmage from you. I wonder how much Jason Peters still has left in the tank, but I'm intrigued to find out. I hate to see him going down to Dallas, but I'm intrigued to find out exactly what Jason has left.
Yeah, going to be interesting. All right, let's jump to Washington.
Yep.
We touched on it with Damo a little bit with Wentz, but there is definitely talent on this team, and they have a good receiving core. I think they have a pretty decent backfield. I don't know if I love their offensive line, and the defensive line's taken a big hit with Chase Young not being able to at least play the first 4 games. And then who knows how he comes back after that. And their linebacking core is not great either. Right. But if Wentz plays well, they're going to be a well-coached team with Rivera. You know that. In your estimation, is this a playoff team?
Oh, man. Wow. If everything fell into place for them, yes. If Wentz comes close to playing like he did in 2017, Washington is going to hurt a lot of feelings this season. I love their collection of pass catchers. Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. Obviously we don't know what he's going to do at this level. And Curtis Samuel. I think Curtis Samuel is one of the more underrated receivers in the game. And you got Cam Sims. They got the kid named Cam Sims is an up-and-coming receiver for him as well. Right. So they got 4 pretty good receivers. A tight end, Logan Thomas is a good tight end if you can keep him healthy.
Yeah,
it's always big with him. But losing Brandon Scherf along the offensive line is a huge loss for them. Sam Cosmi is a good tackle, but the other parts of that offensive line, I don't know. The secondary's decent. They've got some good interior linemen. When you're talking about Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, that's a pretty nice nucleus right there to have.
Yeah, it is.
But who's coming off the edge for that team? Who's applying the pressure off the edge consistently? Now, Montez Sweat has the ability, but he hasn't had that breakout season yet. And until Chase Young gets back, they're going to be hurting in that regard, having guys putting consistent pressure on a quarterback. But it starts with that quarterback, man. If he runs that offense the way it's supposed to be run, you've got the running back with Antonio Gibson. You've got the pass catchers. If he runs that offense, I see them at like a 9-8 team, 9-8 in the NFC, because there's so many bland teams in the NFC right now. 9-8 could get you in the playoffs.
Yeah, 9-8 is going to be. I mean, look, that's what the Eagles were last year, and they got in, right? So it's not out of the question that gets you in. You're right. Some of that is going to depend on what the rest of like the North does beyond Green Bay, what the South looks like, is how good is New Orleans, all of those kind of things for sure. I think 10 cements you. I think 9, you're dancing on that fine line of whether or not you get in.
You're in that Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, where you don't want to be. But let's go to the Giants now, and they have been more than any team destroyed by injuries.
Oh my goodness!
Season. I mean, destroyed. Up to 6 or 7 offensive linemen. Everybody and their mother going down for them. They weirdly just cut Blake Martinez after he made the team. Yesterday. Just kind of a strange move in and of itself. Daniel Jones really entering a season where it's make or break for his career in New York, maybe his career as a starter in the NFL. Saquon Barkley trying to come off a couple of years of injuries. A mess with the receiving core, including Kenny Golladay, who's just been, the worst for them so far. I don't see it. I like Dable. But I know Seth said earlier, he thinks they're going to be better. And I think they'll be better than what they were with Joe Judge. But I think this is a 4 or 5 win team.
Yeah, I don't think Dable has the personnel he wants to have yet. When I look at this receiving core this team has, the first thing that comes to mind is if they had a better quarterback, they would be a more dangerous team. Galladay has been a disappointment, but you still have Kadarius Toney. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's talking about he has to show it this year. You still have Sterling Shepard. You got Darius Slayton. I mean, you got some good pass catchers on that team. They've tried their best to fix that offensive line, and now the guys are falling left and right. Plus, they're going to be without their number one draft pick, Kayvon Thibodeau, for at least the first 4 games.
Yeah.
I think they finally hired the right coach in Daboll. I think they're going to turn it around. Not this year. There's too many question marks. I don't think Daniel Jones is what Daboll wants. And I said it earlier this summer. I think Tyrod Taylor would shine better in that offense than Daniel Jones will. Mm-hmm. Although Tyrod Taylor has been a 12-year journeyman, I think he's a better fit in Daboll's offense than Daniel Jones is. Of course, it remains to be seen. If they had a halfway decent offensive line blocking for Saquon, who's on a mission to bounce back, and Matt Breida backing him up, Giants could be an interesting team. But I think because of so many ifs with this team, will Galladay show up? How much better or worse will Daniel Jones be in Daboll's offense? And for that matter, how much patience will Daboll have with Daniel Jones? When are you going to get Thibodeau back? Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams are great interior linemen for that team. I'm not big on their linebacking core. The cornerbacks and the safeties, Adoree Jackson. At one time, Adoree Jackson was in the conversation as one of the better cornerbacks in the National Football League. Hasn't lived up to it the last couple of years. You have Xavier McKinney playing free safety. He's a pretty good safety for him. But there's too many holes to fill in this team on both sides of the football, and I think they're going to be right around that 4 or 5 win total again this year.
I think the Eagles win the division, Derek. I think it's close. I think it's tight with Dallas. I agree. That game we talked about a little bit earlier, week 6 here at home against the Cowboys is going to go a long way. The Eagles lose that game, then all bets are off as far as I'm concerned, because then it'll show you Dallas just still has their number. But if the Eagles can win it and plant that little seed into Dallas's mind that, hey, this is a different year. This is not the same thing that you've seen the last few years where we're just going to beat up on them. I think that's going to go a real long way for the confidence. The Eagles have a bye week after that.
Yeah.
And, I think they're feeling good about themselves if they get that win, or bad about themselves if they lose it, and they have an extra week to sort of, marinate in it. So I really think a lot of the season comes down to that week 6. I know it's really early, but I still feel that way.
I don't think I think the week 6 game is an important game, but because it's so early in the season, if they lost that game, they still have enough time to bounce back, and they get another shot at Dallas on Christmas Eve as well. And but it is a tone setter if they do get that week 6 game. But I don't think it's the end of their season by any stretch of the imagination if they can stay healthy. I think, it's a learning tool for them. They'll have another week to stew on it after they play Dallas, which will make them come back even more focused for what's coming up after that. Mm-hmm. I do think they have much better talent across the board than Dallas does, no question about that. But, when you talk about those division games, any and everything can happen, man. And we've seen it time and time again across the board in any division. You just never know, man. When it's those backyard brawls or those heated rivalries, something like a fluke, ricochet interception, a fumble rooski, something, a field goal off the upright. You just never know when teams like Dallas and Philadelphia get together. I would love to see the Eagles go in and smack them in the mouth and put Dallas in their place. But I would also say, if Dallas finds a way to win that game, they'll learn from it and move on.
Yeah, I hear you. Like, I'm not dooming them. I'm not telling you it's done if that's the case. But I just think from a psyche standpoint, they could really use that win. That's for sure. Look, and lastly, when it comes down to the Eagles, as I mentioned, I think they're the division winner. I think they're a 10-11 win team. I think that probably 11 gets it, and the Cowboys are around that 10-win mark. I think Washington's kind of a wild card. They could be a 9-win team, as we discussed a little bit earlier, which puts them in the discussion in terms of the playoffs. You start looking around at the other divisions. Like, for me, it's Green Bay and Minnesota. I think both come out of there. I think Green Bay wins it, but Minnesota is a playoff team. I think they're that good. I think having an offensive mind now, and just a change of scenery from Zimmer is going to bode really well for them. The South is weird. It could just be Tampa, but I think New Orleans, if Jameis plays well, maybe they get 2, maybe. The Rams and San Fran are, I think, both getting in, but the Arizona's the team that I think takes a little bit of a step backwards.
I think with Kyler Murray not having DeAndre Hopkins to make some of his passes look good, I think that puts a little bit more pressure on Kyler Murray.
Yep.
The latter half of the season, teams figured him out how to defend him as fast as he is. Teams figured out how to defend him. I think the word is out now on how you defend a Kyler Murray. They lost some pieces on defense. They lost Jordan Hicks. Chandler Jones are gone. So they've lost some significant pieces on that defense. Yeah, no question about it. I do think Arizona takes a step back. I see Arizona as like one of those 10-17 teams again. Will that be good enough to get in the playoffs this year? Don't know. I think they're right on that 9-8, 10-7 type border in terms of how their season turns out. The NFC is wide open, man. Tom Brady has no offensive linemen in front of him. They're all decimated by injuries.
Yeah.
Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers no longer has his security blanket in Devontae Adams. He's going to have to rely on a bunch of kids to catch passes for him. He's blasted these kids in training camp, and he's sung their praises also. Mm-hmm. I've had a chance to see a couple of Green Bay's preseason games. They've got a couple of young receivers that can flat out go. Can he get them up to speed? But the problem is they've been dropping passes. The one kid they're really going to be counting on, that Christian Watson from North Dakota State, he missed much of training camp because of a knee injury. He had knee surgery back in June. Minnesota has everything you want to win that division. If Minnesota wins that division, my brother will never be allowed on this show again. I'm telling you right now, he is not coming on the show again. If he is, I'm taking a day off or taking that segment off.
Well, let me see when the first game is with these two.
Not going to happen
because I know that
it's
that
the first
day,
game of the season.
Oh God! All right, so yeah, they play at fourth. That's at Minnesota, man.
At Minnesota, first game of the season.
You might be a miserable little camper that next Monday, September 12th. I don't have a good feeling for you there. I think the Vikings win that game, Derek.
He's already asked me several times, hey, if Minnesota wins, do I get to come back on the show? I've sent him in capital letters. No. You're not coming back on the show. No, it's not possible. No.
Let me see what that's. Really, I'm just curious what that spread is.
What's the early spread on it?
Green Bay's -1.5. It's a tight line.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a tight line. I mean, keep in mind Minnesota's home, and so over under's 48. Man.
Wow. Under 48. Wow.
If we were still doing odds on, Derek, I would probably lean, I hate to tell you, towards the Vikings in that one. I grabbed the 1.5.
I can't get mad at you. When I'm looking at the two scenarios, although I think Green Bay's defense is going to be much improved, especially with the 2 first-round draft picks they used to take 2 Georgia players on defense. I can't disagree with you in that regard. Minnesota has the pass catchers. They've got the running game, offensive line, defense. Their front seven. I love their linebackers. Woo. Jordan Hicks, Eric Kendricks. Mm-hmm. I love their linebacking situation. But, I might have to bite that bullet, Rob. It'll be a solemn week for me.
All right. So we come back. We will continue with the football talk. There's a lot of news, little odds and ends here and there. One team loses a major piece in the AFC. We'll discuss that. Also, we will dive into the ramifications of the Russell Wilson contract, what that means not only for him around the league, what it means for Lamar Jackson, what it could mean for Jalen Hurts as well if he has a good year. So we'll dig into all that. Barrett should be back as well. We keep it rolling here on this Friday as we ease you in to Labor Day weekend. Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis, Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk about Flynn Tree Services, because Flynn Tree Services is an experienced, licensed, and insured Pennsylvania tree services company that will trim or remove any unwanted trees off of your property. They offer cost-effective solutions to any tree problem that you may face. So do you have any type of tree issues in your yard or your property? If you do, they're just a quick phone call away. They are experts at trimming all types of trees and serve southeastern PA, South Jersey, and northern Delaware. Flynn Tree Services specializes in tree removal, stump grinding, and tree pruning. Keep in mind, storm and hurricane season is upon us, all right? Now is a great time before it really starts to hit heavy to get your trees evaluated. Make sure, hey, this is good. This is not some dead branches that could fly off and damage the house or hurt somebody, etc. Go to their Facebook or Instagram for more information or a sampling of their work. Give Flynn Tree Services a call, 610-850-2848, 610-850-2848, or online at flyntreeservices.com. That's flyntreeservices.com.